Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, June 23, 2016. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. The two election petitions brought by the opposition New Democratic Party have been struck out by High Court Judge Justice Brian Cuttle. The NDP was seeking to have the results of the December 2015 election overturned in the Central Leeward and South Windward by declaring their candidate Benjamin Exeter and Lauren Batiste the winners of those seats or declare fresh elections. In handing down his judgment today, Justice Cuttle cited the case of Sagba and Solomon 1963, where the petitioners sought to provide security via a check where the statute required cash, declared that the absence of sureties is fatal, and judged the petitions as void. Cuttle stated that petitioners were obligated to present sureties with only the petitioner standing as surety, hence the reason why the petitions had to be struck out. The judge also ordered that the petitioners pay the respondents' costs to be assessed if not agreed upon. Commenting on the ruling, attorney for the New Democratic Party, Kate Backus-Brown, made it clear that her team is not satisfied with the judgment and contended that Justice Cuttle made serious errors and that they will be appealing the decision.
Elections were not free and fair, and we intend to appeal. In fact, we had already begun drafting our appeal because Justice Cuttle had already intimated to us what his judgment would be. This is the third judgment we have had from Justice Cuttle, and we believe that he has made some serious errors of law. And so, without a doubt, we shall be appealing. Even beginning with the first judgment where he refused us permission to inspect the ballot boxes, we remained convinced that there was ample evidence, even from the supervisor of election and from Mr. Gaines. And I, speaking for myself, am still nonplussed as to why he did not allow us to scrutinize the ballot boxes, and even compounded it by saying that we were on a fishing expedition. That I cannot understand.
In relation to the matter of sureties, Backus added that Justice Cuttle failed to address an important matter which was raised during the hearing, and that she is confident that upon appeal, her clients will be vindicated.
First of all, he neglected to deal with the abuse of process point that was made in a proper way as far as we are concerned. He had to first get over that hurdle before he dealt with the second hurdle, which was about the sureties. We remained firm also in our conviction that the respondents should have made their objection within the 10 days that the law stipulates, and we are confident that we will be vindicated in the final analysis.
Meanwhile, the New Democratic Party's candidate for Central Leeward, Benjamin Exeter, stated that while he is disappointed by the ruling, he is not surprised by the decision and will fight on using the appeal process.
Mixed emotions. I am rather disappointed but not totally surprised, given past verdict that he's rendered against us. So as Mr. Backus-Brown indicated, we had measures in place going forward to make sure that the fight continues. So we started the appeal process already in our end, anticipating this outcome.
After staying away from Parliament for 6 months as part of their protest against the December 9, 2015 general elections results, the opposition New Democratic Party, the NDP, members turned up to today's sitting, ready to take on the government side. Early this month, the clerk of the House issued a notice to each of the members of the opposition about their persistent absence from the House. However, as we hear in this report from SVG-TV's Sharon Garraway, the ruling Unity Labour Party, the ULP, is questioning their change of approach.
The return of the opposition New Democratic Party NDP team to the Parliament today, Tuesday, June 23rd, was rather surprising for those in attendance, and after they stayed away consecutively for 6 months. The full side of the 7 elected members and 2 senators sat through and participated fully in today's proceedings, from prayers to congratulatory remarks, among other items on the order paper. The proceedings were not without its flary style from both sides of the House, as verbal jabs were exchanged by members. Whether it was a letter from the clerk of the House warning the opposition NDP team of their absence, or their desire to debate the first reading of the Petro Caribe Special Purpose Fund Bill, it drew the full opposition team to the House. Speaking to SVG-TV News, the opposition leader Arnhem Eustace, after Parliament's break for lunch, stated that they were serious about the business of the people. Eustace said that he believed that the Petro Caribe bill requires them to be in the House.
You know, if I didn't get this information from people who are not around, I wouldn't be able to answer anything about the bill. You know, you're spending $24 million a year and the Parliament don't know.
A similar sentiment was also expressed by Member of Parliament for Central Kingstown and Vice President of the NDP, Sinclair Leacock.
And the party has a position that we must always put the national interest issues above that of the party's interests. Today we have a national interest that is being ventilated, and that's why we're here. This matter of the Petro Caribe Fund cannot be wished away and spoken away lightly, because all of the elements of bad governance, questioning of the constitutional provisions are involved there, and they need to be fully explained to the public that we understand what has been taking place.
However, Member of Parliament for East St. George and Minister of Sustainable Development Camilo Gonsalves cast doubt over the response by the opposition. He questioned their integrity and commitment to the people who elected them.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition himself indicated that when you're elected to Parliament, you have a duty to come to Parliament and represent the people's will. He said that today in his debate. I agree with him. So I think he has an obligation to come. He also said, interestingly, that he came this time, or that the party came this time, because they have a particular problem with this legislation. I don't know if that means for the previous 6 months he has had no problems for any of the other legislation that the government has tabled. But the Parliament is not for you to show up when you disagree. It is for you to show up and have a debate, a conversation with the people, to educate the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to give your views on a bill, even if you agree with it.
After being criticized heavily for their absence in Parliament, the 7 elected opposition members and 2 senators have finally arrived this morning in Parliament to debate the Petro Caribe bill. Reporting for SVG Television News, I am Sharon Garraway.
In delivering his debate on the Petro Caribe bill, Special Purpose Fund 2016 in Parliament today, Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves says that the establishment of a special company to manage the funds is necessary. Meticulously defining the aim and function of the Petro Caribe Fund and how the company will ensure a more efficient administration, the Prime Minister also warned the leader of the opposition about insinuating that there has been misappropriation of funds. The Prime Minister explained that this is also an initiative undertaken by the 3 other countries from the Eastern Caribbean involved with the restructuring of the debt of the Petro Caribe Fund. Dr. Gonsalves says that the debt is only $187.8 million and not $1 billion as being claimed.
Every single item of expenditure is approved by the Cabinet of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and so recorded and spent accordingly. And this bill would ensure that a full and proper account is made of all of those within a legislative framework, but always done on the authority of the Cabinet. And the accounts of the fund shall be audited in each financial year by the Director of Audit or by an auditor duly appointed by him. There's already an auditor.
And opposition leader Arnhem Eustace questioned whether some 300 checks issued to persons from the Petro Caribe Fund valuing some $24 million was paid in 2015. In outlining these monetary figures, Eustace alleged that there were some 60 recipients. He says that from the initial establishment of the fund, he called for a better system of ensuring checks and balances and claimed that there are seemingly some misappropriation.
Why you wrote 386 checks in 2015 to 65 recipients to the tune of $24.3 million. That's what you need to explain.
Yes.
to the people of St. Vincent. And let me tell you something, you know. I saw in the information I got for 2013, I saw payments being made to the Honorable Prime Minister on the 30th of April 2013. I don't know what they're for, but I assume they're for a purpose which has been decided. We have to know all these things so people can't ask any questions. They must be clear because the knowledge is made available. I've seen payments in 2013 to Mr. Beach, to the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Security, in seminar months. But nothing is said to the public. No accounts are provided. No.
A bench warrant has been issued for the arrest of British-born entrepreneur and citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, David Ames, after he failed to appear in court to answer charge of tax evasion. The matter was scheduled to be heard at the Magistrate Court in Kingstown this morning. However, when Crown Counsel Kareem Nelson appeared in court, he informed Magistrate Pompey that there were certain developments pertaining to the case where Samuel Commission obtained an adjournment without a fixed due date to the fact that he is presently in High Court dealing with another matter. Nelson further stated that it was not fair to the prosecution because they were absent when the adjournment was given. It was during this time Magistrate Pompey told Nelson that he was approached by Commission during the sitting of a liquor license session, and it was given because the senior counsel had a matter at the High Court. In response, Nelson told the court whereas he did not have any objection to the adjournment, the defendant Ames should have been present in court and requested a bench warrant, which was granted. The matter is scheduled to be heard next Monday, June 27th. David Ames has been charged for depriving the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines of approximately $3 million between February 2011 and December 2012. Public servants here are being encouraged to be facilitators of development and to learn the rules which govern their employment. These were highlighted during a lecture on Wednesday evening hosted as part of activities to commemorate Public Service Week. Chairman of the Police and Public Service Commission, Sister Blazer Williams, stated that the public service has evolved over the years with many changes as the country continues to develop. Williams added that as the nation grows, new dimensions in various sectors emerged within the economy and society, and the public service must be equipped to deal with the many changes. Williams, however, encouraged public servants to be facilitators and not obstacles to those in the private sector who are seeking to make their contribution to nation building.
There is a difference between facilitation and frustration. And public servants ought to understand that if they are providing goods and services and they're interfacing with people who are concerned and involved with the development of the country, in commerce and in industry and in cultural activity, that, of course, you might be in a position where you're involved in regulating. But in regulating, make sure that you have the interests of what those persons are trying to do for the development of the country. Never forget that. What is the purpose of my work here?
Delivering the feature address was Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves, who stated that the public sector is an important asset in the development of SVG and encouraged all public servants to develop what he calls an excellent spirit in the execution of their duties.
All of us know that's very important. You have to love your job. And you have to respect and cooperate with your colleagues at work. And you have to care for those whom you serve. If you accept those basic things, you're doing quite well, you know. You accept them and you're acting them out. Now, one attitude couldn't get you good, get you well in the business. Another one, you're not going anywhere. And invariably, those who make the most unjustified criticism are those who do not have, quote unquote, an excellent spirit. So the first thing, the excellent spirit, and I give what I consider some ingredients.
PM Gonzalez further encouraged public servants, particularly young university graduates, to learn the laws governing the public service, particularly the rules governing their employment, as well as to learn from senior public servants.
They're brimful with ideas, and I encourage that all the time. I ask you also just to take a breath. Slow down a little bit. Read the regulations under which you function. Read the laws. Not just the general textbooks which you have read. They give you concepts and ideas. Not a lecturer who spoke seemingly authoritatively but very polemically. And you think you know? A person who in the system who ain't spend the time in university, one day in the university, would run rings around you in the public service. And you think that they have something against you. No. If you have some humility, you go to them and learn and find out where to find what.
As a people, we cannot and must not depend on the government to do everything. This was stated by Dean of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College Division of Arts, Sciences and General Studies at the college's 7th joint graduation on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2016. SVG-TV's Chelsea Jackson has the story.
Each year, a number of students graduate from the community college. Unfortunately, a large percentage of these students end up staying home months, weeks, even years without a job. Question which now stands is, what is being done to employ these students? Speaking on behalf of all divisions, Dean of the Division of Arts, Sciences and General Studies, Maxwell Fergus, elaborated on the fact that the lecturers have over the years provided their students with the skills, knowledge and attitude that they need to function effectively in the workplace, and therefore encourage the students not to sit around and rely on the government to provide them with employment, but to work on elevating themselves by becoming their own bosses.
The objective of every government is to lower the unemployment rate. But we cannot depend on government to do everything. Private sector would have to do their part. The students themselves would have to become entrepreneurs, apply the skills that they learn, and start up small businesses in order to provide employment for themselves and for their family members. So we encourage entrepreneurship in the school. We have competitions and so on that will get them towards that. We teach them how to become entrepreneurs. We teach them how to do business plans and how to apply knowledge and skills that they would have learned.
Meanwhile, some of the students ponder on life after college with regards to employment.
It's very troubling because many youths are out there on the block and some of them they need motivation.
To be honest, yes, but I believe that I will be employed. Coming from the Grenadines is not easy, and I came up here, I did my best, so yes, I'm well equipped, I did my best, and I'm ready to go out there now and educate the future.
Considering the level of unemployment in St. Vincent, what are your thoughts on that? Are you scared?
Not really.
So you think you're well equipped and ready for the world of work, and
Yes.
you'll get hired?
Can't scared, man. Come on, work always, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I go make a job for myself.
So you are well equipped for the world of work?
Yes, of course.
Persons tend to go to the government only for jobs. In the meantime, I can find something elsewhere to do. You don't always have to go to the government. There are private sectors that you can apply to as well.
I am not scared of it because my main goal right now is to go and study a field that is needed in my country. So I am quite optimistic that when I am successful in doing so, I will find employment.
Reporting for SVG-TV News, I am Chelsea Jackson.
Highlighting that the male population at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College is significantly less than that of females, Director of the SVG-CC Nigel Scott says more needs to be done to retain more males in the school system. Speaking at the institution's 7th amalgamated graduation ceremony earlier this week, Scott made an open appeal to both current and aspiring male students to remain devoted to achieving an education, noting that there needs to be a greater involvement of males in the educational process.
Worthy of note that 67% of our student population are females. Although about equal numbers of males and females enter our secondary schools, we are losing our males by the time they exit these secondary schools. This results in this very skewed gender ratio. We must find ways of addressing this issue earlier in the cycle. In addition, we must do all that we can to keep those males that we have at the college gainfully occupied and educated.
Noting that there are 8 times as many females than males engaged in the teacher training program, Scott stated that it is indeed unfavorable and urged all aspiring male teachers to answer to their calling so that they too can be a part of the development of SVG. He further added that the SVG-CC will continue to ensure that they provide qualified teachers to educate the nation.
To say that the gender ratio among our teacher trainees mimics what we see in many higher education institutions. Our boys deserve to have good male teachers as role models in the classroom. I am therefore using this opportunity to appeal to our good, respectful, and honorable young men to consider teaching as a profession. Our nation, region, and world need you. At the college, we will continue to be proactive in recruiting and selecting eligible male applicants into the teacher training program.
Assistant Superintendent of Police Closton Francis said an autopsy carried out on the body of 67-year-old Errol Speedy Chambers of Glen, who was found hanging from a tent pitched at the Calico playing field, shows that he died of strangulation. In an earlier interview with SVG-TV News, Chambers' 2 daughters were adamant that their father would not have taken his own life, as has been purported, and that they suspected foul play in his death. In a telephone interview yesterday, ASP Francis said he cannot say much on the matter at this time, as it is still under investigation.
Which you can suggest he died from hanging.
Right.
Right.
Do you think that, or is it confirmed as yet whether it was a suicide or a homicide?
You see, the thing with hanging, sometimes you can't say whether it's a suicide or a homicide. All I can say is that he died from hanging, and the police are investigating to determine whether it was a suicide or a homicide. At this moment, we cannot say which it is, because it will take time for the investigations to complete.
The superintendent said while the scenario seems somewhat peculiar, there are many factors the police will take into consideration in their investigations.
Normally, from my experience, persons will hang themselves either at home or close to their home. But this gentleman is living at Glen, and it was somewhat unusual that he was found in the possession he was met at Calico. But again, I do not want to jump to any conclusion. Anything could have happened, but it was somewhat unusual for me. But again, let me emphasize, we are investigating. And we cannot say precisely.
I know you guys are investigating the matter, but what I'm saying, I mean, most of his body weight was found leaning on the stage, and his toes were basically touching the ground.
Yes.
Does that seem right?
Yes, those are reasons for questions to be raised. But again, we have no other evidence as yet, no other information to suggest whether anything sinister occurred. Yes, persons will ask questions based on the position in which the body was found.
Carnival Beat is coming right up. Stay with us. Welcome to Carnival Beat. The Physical Planning and Development Board is working alongside the Carnival Development Corporation to ensure revelers have easy access in and out of capital Kingston during the festive season. At a media conference on Tuesday, representative of the Planning Division, Shelford Snow, outlined the specific areas where persons will be able to set up shop for sales during the season. But Snow stressed that while he understands more persons will be coming into the city for the various events, order must be maintained.
Objective is basically not to control the free spirit, but more or less to ensure that it is expressed in a positive way, in a more safe and controlled environment. So that stretch in front of the Lower Bay Street area, the import warehouse and the southern side, there will be street bars. There will be actually 7 street bars permitted, 2 trailer bars in that area. In South River Road Heritage Square, we have established big bar, 1 street bar with 1 music system. So those will be kept in place, and there will be additional space closer to Bay Street along that stretch for 2 other trailer bars.